Catherine OLeary is an Australian artist based in Victoria who works primarily in textile arts. She has been expressing her talent working with felt since 1990, refining her manual manipulation of felt to create incredible three-dimensional works. She has mastered the art of felt making and utilises it as a vehicle for the creation of three-dimensional forms. These forms consist of wearable garments such as jackets, dresses, skirts, bojagi, wearable art and innovative sculptures. Silk fibre, fabric and wool fibre are Catherine's preferred textile mediums. Hand-dyed, painted, hand-embroidered and illustration techniques make each piece a unique piece of art. Crafting wool felt by hand is a technique which Catherine has been exploring for over 30 years, sharing all that she's learned in her self-published book, Felt Forward. With a formal training in fine arts, Catherine found her joy in textiles and has followed her instincts over her career, pushing the boundaries both with technique and concept, resulting in an impressive portfolio. Currently, Catherine is exploring bojagi, a traditional Korean technique of piecing fabric together to create a desired object. Catherine is utilising the transparent nature of silk organza to challenge the stereotype of male versus female clothing. Why can't men of all ages be free to enjoy the movement, texture and freedom that silk organza offers? Catherine is creating a film to further push the possibilities of what it means to create and display art. She has taught extensively throughout Australia and overseas and has a unique approach to design and construction that boasts personal and collective shows and prizes and even 2 books under her belt. I'm sure you'll be delighted in not only seeing more of Catherine's work in this interview, but also to hear her wise words and wisdom when it comes to following your instincts as an artist and setting free all that you know in order to keep moving yourself forward. So without further ado, I give you Catherine OLeary. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really thrilled to have you as a Friday feature artist, even though this is actually pre-recorded. How are you?
Very well, thank you. It's lovely to be here.
It is. You've had a busy few weeks. What have you been up to?
Well, it's been so busy. I've just been working in a couple of schools in Melbourne as an artist in residence. So it's working with the teachers and working on felt. So I've been making installations for both schools, installations. So I've got a few more weeks to go. But it's fun work. It's what children are so wonderful. They're so open to doing anything and they're enthusiastic. It's great. Love it.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? We actually had parent-teacher interviews last night and I made a point of making an appointment with my daughter's art teacher. And she's currently teaching art history. And anyway, it was supposed to be a 10-minute little interview. It ended up being like 20 minutes. And we just got talking about textile art and how much she loves teaching the kids because she's an artist in her own right as well and an art historian, believe it or not. So some are so lucky to have such a great teacher, but she just loves teaching the kids because they're so free.
Yeah, they are. You have to give them 110% because they want it. You know, they are so excited and they just have such a good time and they're fearless. That's the best thing I get out of it is it's inspirational seeing how fearless children are. They just jump in, just go for it. And it's, as an adult, people often, well, I think most adults, you hesitate or you think about it too much sometimes, but you can be inspired by the way kids just jump in. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. How do we as adults embrace more of our inner child and just let go of fear in terms of creating something bad?
I think it's in the process. We need to just enjoy the process and not be wanting the end result. I think kids don't, especially when they're in schools, they just do what they're told in regards to, okay, this is the project we're doing, and they don't really know where it's going to go because they're not sure of the techniques, and so they just jump in there technically and just have fun, and they're not thinking, oh, I'm going to end up with this thing and it has to look in a particular way. So I think that's the key, really.
Yeah, yeah. Summer's teacher was teaching them how to make puppets, and they're really crazy, wacky things. Like they're paper mache, and then they've got stitched hair and stitched clothing, and they're amazing. Like they're actually really amazing. And she said, I could never make that because I'd be too worried about having it sort of the stitching to be right. But the kids just go crazy, and some of them are like really contemporary. Like you think you could see these hanging in an art gallery and being amazing.
Yes. Yeah, just inspiring.
Yeah, inspiring. So for people that aren't familiar with your work, Catherine, can you give us a sort of a synopsis of how you came to textile art? Because you actually studied fine art.
Yes, that's right. I studied in the early 80s fine art, majoring in drawing. So pretty much I was drawing for 4 years, which is a good foundation. It's developing an eye. It's being able to see things, break things down to basic shapes and the fundamentals. It's like the skeleton of all art, really. And so it was a good basis. But I always enjoyed, in my downtime, stitching, embroidering, knitting, and textiles in general. And that was my happy place. And so then I suddenly realized one day, why can't I just be doing this? Why can't I just be doing this? And so I thought, okay, I'll just do what I love and see where it goes. And I didn't really know a lot of technical skills. And so what I did was I just did what I thought was an idea. So in some ways that made my work quite original. And I came across felt making in a book, and I really thought, what on earth is this? It looks so interesting. And I wanted a cloth to embroider that was soft on the hands. And so I just pretty much made awful felt for about 5 years, trying to work out how to do it well, because there wasn't a network in those days. So that was in the 80s. There was people, I found out later, working independently all over Australia, but no one was really connected. And in the 90s, early 90s, different groups started up, and so it was fabulous, really. And we brought tutors in from overseas, European tutors whose actual was part of their felt making was part of their culture. So we sort of got hothoused in Australia and in felt making, and we could just jump ahead creatively, independently, individually, really. And I suppose I'm very grateful for those early workshops in felt making that sort of gave me the tools that I could just do and develop my own way of working.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm finding that a lot when I talk to people now who have had that sort of 30, even sometimes 40 years of experience, is that they really didn't have the access to everything that we have access to now in terms of knowledge and the accessibility of it. And I wonder in another 30 years how people's work is going to be. So you've done the work, you've done the research, you've learnt almost, some would say, the hard way, but you've done the work. So I wonder if people are going to see the same results in 30 years' time from now with learning differently. Yeah.
Well, the world's much smaller now. I'm finding everything's interconnected. And the fact that Australia was isolated, we brought in international tutors. We had some great techniques taught. I find that, but then we were still isolated, so we could actually develop our own expertise in felt making. We have the wool, so most of the wool that gets Australian merino wool gets imported, and it's a novelty, but we have it on tap, and so we could just really perfect the art of felt making here using our own wool, which was really special. And I think I just feel on a world scale, I do a lot of teaching overseas in all sorts of countries, and Australia is fabulous. The standard is quite fabulous, and I find sometimes I've talked to other tutors who've come from overseas here, and they get quite shocked at the high standard in Australia. So it's really fabulous, really.
Oh, good on you, Aussies. I think that's excellent. Well, your work is certainly of a world-class standard, and I'd love to show viewers some of your beautiful sculptural felted pieces. They're just incredible, Catherine. What came first for you? Was it sort of flat felting, and then did sculpture evolve from there, or was it more the clothing that started? How was your sculptural journey? And
I did them both in tandem, really, because I see clothing as wearable sculpture. Really, it has to be 3D, has to sit around an organic form, which is the body, and so I find whether you wear it or whether you just have it sitting as a sculpture, it's still a 3D beautiful shape. And with my clothing workshops, they're advertised as clothing workshops, but basically they're design workshops, surface design, because it's a lot of my work. It's looking at shapes, patterns, and so the outline. So this piece here is a wearable art piece that went to one of the WOW shows. So it's looking at the silhouette, but it's also looking at the surface patterning as well. So it's working both together, which is very sculptural.
I love this piece here, and when you can actually get up close to this piece, you see the fine stitching detail that you've done with those little white.
Yeah, well, this has been made out of offcuts. So all my dark black and grey jackets that I had made, where I'd made a length of fabric, so all the offcuts, then I'd kept them all in a bag of that colour, and then cut up shapes, circular shapes, and then overlap them and they're all hand stitched. So then I've refelted it. So traditionally you can't felt together, you can't join them together. But if it's heavily stitched, it sort of opens up the fibres a bit, and so they do join to a point, but it becomes one fabric again. So I don't have any wastage at all. I use every single bit of everything when I make felt.
That's amazing. It's one way of having a sustainable art practice, isn't it?
Yes. And it's not just the wastage, it's the expense. Wool's very expensive. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the fabrics I use on the surface when I do the Nuno felting, like that jacket's got pretty much all the felt has fabric on the surface. And a lot of that's just recycled clothing, really, and offcuts of other silk projects.
That's gorgeous. Yeah. That's gorgeous. I know those workshops are really popular. And do you enjoy teaching those ones?
Yes, I do. People often come in thinking they're going to be making just a garment. They don't realise that it's really like a painting. The surface design is very obvious. It's not something that just blends in. So what you put down is what you get. So it's quite a graphic look often, and it is surface design workshop. So, but I don't advertise it as that, because sometimes people get a bit intimidated by the idea that I'm going to have to be designing, because I know that they will anyway. They'll do a wonderful design anyway. So I like them to just work more instinctively and just play with the patterns, surface design.
I like that. I love that concept of not giving people a set expectation and putting that pressure on them, and that you know internally what they're like, where you can take them, but you don't want to show them the full journey yet. So
people do get intimidated. They get intimidated by what they perceive that they're going to have to do. Yes. And I don't know what happens to people from when they become adults. They lose that sense of adventure, or they get a bit too stereotyped into fashion, or these two colours go together. But I think anything goes, really, if you want it to. You just make it happen.
Yeah, yeah. I loved recently Catherine was at a Fibre Arts Australia event in Ballarat, and I actually didn't load any of the students' work, and I should. I'll post some more, but they're certainly on Fibre Arts Australia's Instagram and Facebook if anyone wants to check them out. But the work your students made, it was fantastic. I was so impressed, you know.
Yeah, very professional, isn't it?
Yeah, so professional, and and just the progression. It's a full week, so they have a lot of time, but also there's that sense of urgency in the end, like I've got to get this done. And some people did and some people didn't, but it was incredible to watch that journey as we were popping in and out of the classroom and seeing the class really go on that journey with you. It was really good.
It's pretty special when you can make something from nothing. So you have all the little disparate pieces and you just make something that's a big piece from nothing. And I find that's exciting, and I think people find it really fantastic to create something that they've made from scratch. So every part of that is their design. Every piece of fabric put together is their design. And so it's not like buying a length of fabric and making something. They're creating the fabric, and I think that's the most exciting thing.
Yeah, that is really cool. Yeah. Talk to me about your felt sculptures. I'm going to pop a couple up on the screen, and they're just incredible. Like, they really are amazing. This piece is just beautiful.
Yeah, this piece is called Refugee, and it's about 2 meters in length from the top, and it's very lightweight. So if you just walk past it, it sort of moves. Just even breathing on it makes it move. It has these hollow forms inside it, which are like little babies. I've felt it over a baby doll, and then I've extracted the doll, and then it's all been heavily stitched. So it's actually, they're hollow, but they don't look hollow, they look heavy, and they're all entwined and sort of trapped within this sack. So it's sort of, I was just, at the time, there was a lot of refugee political talk, and I just felt so sorry for the children. So I made the sculpture as my sort of comment on it, really. But yeah, I like making things that people can't work out how I did it too. It's sort of fun to make things that technically that are hard to understand, what other felt makers can't work it out. And that's sort of good too. But in my book, my latest book, Felt Forward, I'm actually going into all those techniques now. So I cover the technique for what that sculpture is.
Really? Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm not a felt maker, but I just look at that and I just wouldn't even know where to start. Like, I get that there's something and you put something around it, but then my brain instantly goes to, but how do you get the doll out? If it's,
it's like birthing. You birth the sculpture, really. That's why I quite like doing the baby dolls, because I feel I'm actually birthing something, because you do with, it's quite hard to get them out, but it's just a matter of having an incision in the right place, because it will pop once you pull it out. You just do it in parts. So with that, you actually just do it from the head, because it's exactly the same, and the limbs follow. It's like birth, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! So you're giving birth to an idea, and then you're conceptualizing it, and then you're physically giving birth to it as well. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and it's in some ways a bit private, because no one knows that it's what it feels like to actually make a baby in felt, and then to actually extract it like that in the same way as a baby is birthed. It's just weird. But anyway, I've said it now. It was private, but it's not so private, really.
Yeah.
I'll also say a lot of my sculptures too, they're biographical. I've just realised in recent years, looking back, biographical family members, like my daughter having baby, and and different struggles they've had at different times, family members. Within, like any family, you have your ups and downs. And I found I actually reflected that in my work, and I didn't even know at the time because it was quite intuitive and instinctual. So, yeah, it's interesting reflecting. It's nice to go back and look at your old work and reflect, oh, okay, this is what it all meant. This was about this person or that person or myself.
Yeah. Actually, I was talking to Lorna Crane about that last week. We had a talk on looking forward, looking back, similar to the one she gave at Ballarat, but we went a little bit deeper into some of her work. And the one thing that struck me was that you can keep reinventing your work, or you can keep being progressive in your work by not reinventing yourself, basically, but by finding influence within yourself, within your own work, and having the time to reflect and look back. That's very important.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to do that because I always work instinctively. I don't ever plan anything. I just let it grow. And as it's growing, it's when it feels right to finish, I finish. But it's only looking back that I sort of understand why I have done it in lots of ways.
Yeah. Talk to me about these pieces here. The I suppose you call them a head, but the bust almost.
This one's called Nest. So the bottom part of it is solid felt, and it's about the size of a basketball. And it's using felt offcuts, sort of pre-felt offcuts that have been industrially through a machine, and it's the bits that get caught in the machine or the leftover bits. So they're parts of the wool that really can't be used for anything much else. So I pretty much wound it up like a ball of wool and felted it as I went. So it's one big, heavy, solid felt ball. But the top part, the head, is hollow. So it gives a balance, a physical balance. It doesn't fall over. It just sort of sits there. And then I've heavily stitched all over just to combine them. But it's got the little hole I've carved into the solid felt at the bottom, and it's got a little nest I made out of like a bird would make a nest out of twigs and little bits. Yeah. And then I've actually made a felt egg in it. So it's just a piece that's sometimes I like to have things that people can make their own interpretation of it. Yes. I don't want to sort of project too much of my own thoughts. I do what I feel looks good and feels right. And that's also with titles. Sometimes with titles I have trouble thinking of a name because I just want the observer to respond in how they want to respond and not influenced by me.
Yeah. And what about this one here? This is incredible.
Similar. It's solid felt in the base, and I've made the roots that it's wired felt, but the whole surface of the head, which is hollow, is Nuno felted. So I've printed onto very fine tissue silk and felted through that tissue silk, so it actually becomes one with the felt and just sort of sinks in. And the leaf shapes are printed on the silk before I felted it. So they're real leaf prints. And yeah, I've Nuno felted through. So you can't actually see the silk. All you see are the images that's printed on the silk because it's white silk. So it just gets blended and absorbed into the wool.
Yeah. And what's the meaning behind that piece, Catherine? Like looking back now, where was that one coming from?
That's from a place of just contemplation and stillness, like a peaceful place. So it's more of an emotion, a feeling. The nest is sort of like nurturing, and this is like just a sense of it's a very peaceful thing to look at. Just a sense of, just stillness, contemplation.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I've always been intrigued, and I really love the photography that you've made for your felted people. I'll pop this image up. It's just really cool photography.
You can see my obsession. Photography is hugely, hugely important because the work gets sold, and it's gone, and you never see it again. And it's like, in some ways, as an artist, it doesn't exist anymore because it's not there, and all you have are the images. And to me, they become really precious. So if I was caught in a bushfire, I'd be going for all my USB sticks. That'd be the first thing I'd go for, because that's what you have left. And so getting a really good photograph will help you get into exhibitions, competitions. It's good for talks, and it's also good just to have it as your personal reference, just to look at and see where you've been and how works connect. Because you get a whole series of works over a period of 10 years, and if you've got all you'll have left is the images, because work gets sold and it goes to new homes. And so those images are precious, incredibly precious. So I always get a professional photographer, and I've had quite a few over the years, and they're really important.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think people could relate to that anywhere, if they're an artist or not, that the first thing that you'd probably grab in a bushfire, apart from you living members of your family and your animals, is probably your photos, isn't it? Those photos, especially in that analog days where, they can't be reproduced. It is just one image, on the wall.
Yes.
Yeah. I just
as an artist, I find it's important, because if you're working professionally, you just need those. You use them all the time.
Yes. Yeah. Especially when people like me go, send me 20 images.
And you got both. You got the professional and the others.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just haven't had the time. I've entered something like for the Biennale. The Fibre Arts Biennale last year.
Yeah. Well, last year it was this year.
Yeah, the current one. I basically just finished it the day before I had to be in, so I could not get it photographed, and I just had to do it myself. And I thought, well, what will be will be. It's just one of those things. But then you regret it, because how many times I've need that image already, and it's shows. Yeah.
Well, here it is here. I mean, they've photographed it at the gallery. So honestly, Catherine, I would contact Glenys and the gallery and ask if you can have their photos. I'm sure they'd pass them on. Absolutely. And we've also taken a little video of that piece. I'll show everybody. This is a still image of your piece, and this is just from your home. So they're not professionally shot, but I just wanted to talk about. We've spoken about, the importance of having a professional photograph done, and when you get these ones, you'll be able to, you can tell they're lit beautifully, and they're composed beautifully, and it really helps tell that story. What I loved about looking at your piece when we were there filming was how it moved. And
yes, it's important.
Yeah, I'd love to show you what it looked like if you haven't already seen it through the Art Textile Biennale little showreel we put together for them, where actually Glenys and only spoke about a few pieces. But I'd love to show this for you, and I'll give you this footage too, so you can have it and use it whichever way you like. Not sure the music quite right for it, but that was the one we had on the showreel. So
no, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I just loved how it span. Well, I may have manipulated it to spin a little bit, but when it moved, just this face of this baby emerged, and then this profile, and it was quite striking. It was my favourite one to film by far. It was incredible.
Yeah, thank you. I like the movement. I love the fact you're making something that's traditionally quite like a three-dimensional solid form, and the fact that it can just move in the air, or just, I love that. I love the movement. It becomes an installation in some ways.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And I just think it just elevates it. I mean, people, if they even have like a flat piece, you can even get your iPhone and just run your iPhone across it. So it doesn't necessarily need to spin in the air, but for anyone out there wanting to sort of take their photography, just elevate it that little bit, just a slight little movement across with your phone or something it'll show the stitches, the texture. I think it's I don't know. I love the moving image. I fell in love. I was a photographer, and I'll never forget the day I worked on my first television commercial and saw the power of the moving image, and how I got seduced by the production of it as well. But yeah, it just, from that day on, I was like, I was lost in the film. I just thought, wow, this is a new way to tell a story. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're creating your own film at the moment.
I am. I've just totally obsessed by it, and so what I did is it's working with pajagi, which is a Korean form of piecing together fabrics. So I did a workshop with Chungi Lee many years ago, and I just took to it like a duck to water. It was like something I had always nearly known. It was just did it straight away. And so working with organza is the medium I like to work with. I love the transparency. I love seeing every seam. I love piecing together little bits of fabric and creating one large piece. And I love the fact that it's got an honesty about it, and the fact that nothing's hidden. Every join is celebrated. Every seam is something special. And so this image here is a still from the film that I've been making with my partner Patrick. He's been filming, and we've been working together. So it's trying to capture the idea of male beauty. So I had every age. I had infants, I had a child, I had a teenager. This image here is man in his prime, which I made the piece. It's actually, I painted on the actual jacket. It has a hood as well. I painted that. He sent me the images of his tattoo, and I painted them on the fabric, so you can actually look through and see his body moving under a tattoo. So a tattoo beneath another tattoo, and it's quite striking. Which you could capture that with the photograph, but to have the cloth moving around with his body is just so incredibly amazing. You think, what is that? I could see layers of tattoos, and that's one thing you can capture with a moving image. And so I had another image of an older man as well. And so basically the film's being edited at the moment. It should be done soon. So that's like the child, the teenager, early teenager, like the 20 sort of age. And it's looking at the fabric which is traditionally worn, organza is traditionally worn by females in the Western society anyway. But there's no reason why males cannot wear this sort of fabric, and why they cannot celebrate the movement of cloth around their body. And I found, because this was mainly one family of males, not all of them, a lot of them were, and once they got used to putting it on, I promoted it as like putting a costume on. So after about 10 minutes, they embraced it big time. They were a bit nervous at the start because they weren't flamboyant people. And then once they got into it, you could see them just loving it, loving moving it and adjusting it, or just the feel of it on their skin. It was just beautiful. So I was trying to break down those barriers of stereotype, really.
Yes.
And that's what the film is really about. It's just celebration of beautiful cloth on beautiful bodies, but they're not traditionally beautiful, but it's creating, they're beautiful anyway. They're just gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Are you planning on entering it into any film festivals or?
Maybe I've got two things I might do. It's either going to just be in itself a
Yes,
film,
yes.
or I did think of making it into an art piece and having it in a show where it's a screen that just plays in repeat, and having
Yes.
in front of it, because the organza is transparent. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what colour, maybe a natural sort of colour, neutral colour, with the cloth hanging in front of the screen. So you look through the organza, which has seams through it, to see the image of the film behind. So I
Yeah.
haven't seen anything like that, but I think it's making it into a textile piece. So a
Yeah.
textile piece with a film behind of textile. And it
Yeah.
would give it more of a surreal sort of feel, a sort of ephemeral feel, by looking through the cloth. And they'd have to come a bit closer to look, so it makes it more intimate. And then they would see these images. So maybe if it looks any good, I might go down that line and make
Yeah.
art. So if not, I'll just do something else. Something I find, if you do exactly what's inspiring you at the time, what happens, something will just open up. It always does for me, and I think it does with everyone. It'll open up an opportunity to do something with that piece, whatever you've made, if you've done exactly what you want to do. And sometimes that opportunity can be bloody hard work, but it's still an opportunity. So that you have a choice to grab.
That is just beautiful advice, Catherine. Thank you so much. That was, yeah. I always ask people at the end of these interviews what would be a quote or a saying or some advice for someone, and I think you've just nailed it on the head there. Yeah. We can repeat it as well, but that was beautiful. I really can't wait to see your film and how you display it, and how you've just pushed the boundaries yet again in terms of, I was just wowed from taking a photo to a moving image, but then you've just taken it this whole another layer further. It's just incredible how your mind works.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Is pushing the boundaries something that's quite conscious for you, or is it just naturally happening?
I think I just always have. And I have a million things going on in my life, and I've always chosen to be an artist. I've never been anything else as career-wise, so I've had to make it work for myself financially, but I've always worked in that way, stubbornly in some ways, but it's for the soul. You do it for your health. You do it because that's what you need to do, and you've got to get as much made and created in that short life that we have, and I just feel really strongly about that. So yeah, it's what I do. It's how I think. Everything is creation, is creative with me in my brain. It's never stopped. So I think people are, if they just tap into that. But I'm being very lucky to be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a testament to your, 30 years of dedication and hard work and
Stubbornness.
Stubbornness. I think that's right. You just have to be stoic and stubborn, don't you? And just
You do, because sometimes, okay, if I get a job somewhere else, I can have more money, or if this is not what people should be doing at your age. They should be blah, blah, blah. So I just have stubbornly just done what I wanted, really.
Yeah. Well, I hope you keep doing what you want, because I've just loved getting to know you and your work, and this, you have such a beautiful, soft personality, and yet your work is so bold and brave, and it's just awesome. I just love it. You don't have to be crazy and out there in your approach to everything in life, but it comes through in other ways. I think it's really beautiful.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. So your book, we briefly spoke earlier about your book and about how you've put everything into it. Now, you've produced 2 books in your career so far. Is that correct? And one was published and this is self-published?
The first book was it's From Felt to Fabric, and that was published by an American publishing company, Lark Books, and that's a huge, big corporate publishing company, and that was fabulous in that it promoted me and gave me a world audience. And it means I can go anywhere and teach because people knew who I was. So I got invited to teach overseas. So that was fabulous, but you don't make any money with publishing companies generally unless you're really famous. So I decided I would do a second book and put everything I know technically into it so that it's out there and it's accessible, and I have projects but also inspirational images so that I can hand that knowledge on, and then also by handing all that knowledge on, it means I can teach all that knowledge, and people can also use it as a reference books who do workshops as well, which people often bring the book along. So I've self-published it to see if I could make a bit more money this time, and also how I could have the creative design license in a way to have the look I want. It's filled with most of the models, family members.
Yes.
And that was sort of lovely too. It's like a family album, and so nieces and nephews, and my mother's in there.
And this little fella, you can't see his face.
That's Apollo. That's my grandson, and I've got 3 grandsons. 2 of them are in the book. All of them are in the film that I've made. But they're just it's lovely. It just makes it a little bit more special for me.
Yeah, that family affair. And I'm sure if you just made a book of their little grandson and like everyone would buy it.
Oh, he was amazing. He was amazing. It was really difficult when he would not put that jacket on. He would not.
Of course not.
We had a whole film set with lighting and photographer, and he didn't like the look of it. He was only 3, like, no way. But then in the last, so we made him just wear it, and he was running around. And then in the last 10 minutes, he walked onto the set, and he was just wandering around, and we just went. She was a really good photographer. She just went crazy, just click, 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 click. And then he got it, and then we couldn't get him off the stage for the next stuff. So so it's done in about 10 minutes, this last little bit. But every photo of him was wonderful. I wanted to use them all, but I couldn't. But fabulous.
Curating your own work is hard, but curating, images of your grandson must have been really difficult.
That was hard because of his age, but my kids, I have 2 daughters, and I've brought them up that they know they're modelling, and it's not like, will you? It's like, okay, this is the date. Keep ready. This is the way it is.
Yeah. Is this one of your daughters here?
That's my youngest daughter, Ruth. She has 2 kids now, so they're both in the film.
She's beautiful.
That's pre-children.
Yeah. And is this another?
That's my eldest daughter, Bridie, and that's she's got a little boy, Peter, who's nearly 10.
Yeah.
And I've used her a lot because she's a textile artist in herself. That's Rosie. That's my niece.
Oh, she's beautiful. She could be a model, isn't?
She's only 14, and she's a tomboy, and I just knew that she'd be perfect because she looked better, and she never wears dresses, but she was really fabulous, and her mother just cried when she saw her all dressed up because she could see, how photographs can show you what your children will be when they're older sometimes.
I can very much relate to that.
She saw her little girl as a woman, and it just was an emotional time.
That's incredible.
That's Bridie again. She's great. That's my eldest daughter. She's great as a model because she always changes her look. Her hair's different. The look, so you never know it's the same person.
No.
Someone said once, how many daughters do you have? Because the metamorphosis of Bridie can be quite radically different. But
Yeah.
So that's Bridie again. That's a costume for WOW that was one of the finalists, and that was made out of shower curtains. So I like to use what's on hand or what inspires me.
Yeah, it looks like glass.
I know it was amazing stuff. It was amazing stuff. It's sort of nearly like 3D about it, and the metal rings that I sewed it around were like one of those little tents you get at IKEA. The little children's tents.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
I had one of those, so that it had its day, and so I just used those rings to. So it's nice using what you can put your hands on. What's around?
Yeah, you can make it into something.
Recycling. Yeah.
Catherine, I could talk to you for hours about family and art and photography and film, and I just let me know next time you're filming something. We'll pop up to Castlemaine and help or something. I would love to get a drone out. I keep saying this image here. When I first saw that, I was like, oh my God, we need a drone and we need to be coming into this rock. And I mean, I don't know the setup, but it would just be amazing.
Well, I'm going to do another project with women, about women.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's going to be, I will, be pre-Raphaelites and should be good.
Cool. Yeah. I'd just like to come and hang out and have a play.
No,
have a geek out.
Now you've said it. You're on my list now.
Oh, no.
No.
Okay. No, that'd be great. It would just be really great, Catherine. I just want to say thank you so much for being our Friday feature artist. And if anyone's got questions, if you've made it this far, and I'm sure you have, if you've got questions that we haven't covered for Catherine, please drop them in the comments and we'll try and get back to you. And Catherine, where can people buy your book?
Oh, you can get it from I don't have it in any shops yet. So from my website, which I just said, So
and I'll pop a link up as well. Yeah.
So www.catherineoleary.com.au. So it's my name all in small case.
Perfect. That's great.
And without the apostrophe. Yeah, no apostrophe.
Yeah. You actually come up quite easily on Google too. So if people
you should be able to.
OLeary artist, it certainly comes up. So
great. Oh, it's been such an easy interview. It's so good.
Well, it's a conversation, isn't it? I feel like you're a very easy person to talk to.
Okay. Thanks, thank you very much.
No worries. Okay. Take care, and I can't wait to see your video. So when it does come out, if you'd like to share it, let me know, and I'll pop a link out and have you share it to our audience. So
wonderful.
I'm just going to play a little video to exit, and usually people pop up their comments to say thank you, and they usually put up all their notes of gratitude. So I'm going to pretend that they're all coming through and everybody's just loved this interview. And pop, if you're listening, please do put a comment for Catherine in the comment section and let her know how much you enjoyed this. And Catherine, stay on the line and I'll say a quick goodbye after.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.